Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name's Adam and my aim is to get you a little bit better at English every time you watch one of my videos. We are currently going through Act 1 of Macbeth and I'm giving you very detailed notes on Act 1 Scene 4 today. Really important scene, packs a punch even though it's quite short. As I say to you before the start of any of these videos, make sure you either have a notepad, notes on your phone, or a copy of the play Macbeth so that you can highlight or add key quotes while I'm talking you through them. You can pause the video, speed it up, slow it down, whatever you need. Okay, so let's dive straight into it. We've got Act 1, Scene 4 here in front of us. In a nutshell, Duncan is asking his thanes at the beginning, asking his son, Malcolm, has the Thane of Cawdor been executed yet? And Malcolm says yes. The first quote for today is Duncan says something that becomes very, very ironic. He says, "There's no art to find the mind's construction in the face. He is a Thane of Cawdor. Thane of Cawdor was a gentleman on whom I built an absolute trust." And he is a trusting king. And unfortunately, when you trust people, sometimes it comes back to bite you, right? And this is an example of that. Duncan has put all of his trust and faith into the Thane of Cawdor, and the Thane of Cawdor has turned around and tried to slap Duncan in the face. And luckily, Macbeth was there and said no, and destroyed the armies that were trying to destroy Scotland for Duncan. It's important to remember that Duncan is an older king. So Duncan is now relying on his younger, more aggressive thanes to protect Scotland. Duncan himself is now beyond that age where he can really get on a horse and grab a sword and get battling. He says something very wise, which is that there is no art or no way to know what is going on in the mind of a person by what is on their face. So right now I could be having all kinds of horrible thoughts in my head, like might be worrying about things, whatever. You wouldn't necessarily be able to see that based on my face on the front, right? In essence, it's this idea that you can kind of mask your inner feelings and thoughts based on the way that you present your face. Now that is really important because that is a huge theme in this play, which is appearance versus reality. Appearance versus reality. Okay, so we have this appearance versus reality here, which is established as a theme, and Duncan is unpacking. Ultimately, there is no way that you can fully trust someone based on what's on their face because you can't really know what's inside their mind. It becomes very ironic because immediately Macbeth enters with Banquo, Ross and Angus at this point, and he calls Macbeth worthiest cousin. Worthiest cousin. And this is irony because obviously Duncan does not realize that Macbeth is currently grappling and wrestling with whether he's going to kill Duncan, right? Whether Macbeth is going to become the next traitor, yeah? But again, we see that Duncan has put his full trust into Macbeth and even calls him cousin. And obviously that is symbolic of family, symbolism or connotations of family. So he sees Macbeth almost like his family. So he humbles him, Duncan humbles himself as well. He says to Macbeth, "More is thy due than more than all can pay." So he's basically saying, look, Macbeth, you were so brave and heroic to defend Scotland the way you did. I cannot repay you. I do not have the means to repay you for what you've done for me. And this is a big statement because Duncan did make Macbeth Thane of Cawdor, which is a huge honor. So there you go. Macbeth then says a very unemotional thing, like a very logical thing, and we're not really sure whether this is currently his appearance or his actual reality. So he says, "The service and the loyalty I owe in doing it pays itself." So he's basically saying, yes, as your Thane, giving you my loyalty and serving you as king is the payment that I deserve, right? But it's not very emotional. It's kind of like the transaction. So we don't know if he really feels that in his heart, that actually, yeah, you're my king, I'm trying to serve you, you know, you've given me all this stuff, thanes, lands, I owe you, you know, you're a good king. Or whether he's just saying it as the right thing to say. We really don't know at this point what's going on in his mind. And that's the whole point, right? Because you cannot know the mind's construction on the face or based on what someone says, right? Okay, so then Duncan goes even further into this idea of them being like a family because he sees Banquo. And he says, "Banquo, you also deserve credit. You're no less deserving, right? Come here, let me enfold thee and hold thee to my heart." So this is hugging. He's hugging Banquo. I'm sure that Queen Elizabeth hugged her children as they were growing up. I'm sure that King Charles was the same. But you rarely ever see it in public, right? But Duncan, right here, he gets off his horse, he's standing on level ground with his men, and he publicly hugs Banquo, like right in front of everyone, okay? He treats his thanes like family. Now, surely that's going to make it so much harder for Macbeth to kill him, because basically Duncan is a father figure. He's like a dad, yeah? Maybe a crazy uncle, I don't know, but he's definitely a family member to them, all right? And so this is just imagery. And again, I mentioned, I think in a previous video about this idea of exposition. So it's exposing or unveiling to us as the audience that Duncan is really nice. Duncan is a really just lovely man, lovely person. Yeah. Makes it even harder to kill him. Okay. He does something very important now, Duncan does. He says, our eldest Malcolm, we name hereafter the Prince of Cumberland. Now in Scotland, I don't know if this is still true today, but it used to be the Prince of Cumberland was the position, the title of the next king or queen. So you're the Prince or the Princess of Cumberland. In the same way in England, before King Charles became King Charles, he was the Prince of Wales. And that was to show that he would be the next king, the next monarch. Okay? So this is a huge deal, the fact that Duncan is now publicly announcing this. It was always meant to be Malcolm because Malcolm had the right of primogeniture. But just because he had the right of primogeniture doesn't automatically guarantee him that king position. If he turned out to be a bad prince, a terrible person, obviously if he had died or something like that, then it would have been the younger son, Donalbain, who is in this play, but is just briefly in this play, okay? But either way, this is a huge deal. But notice what Duncan does next. He doesn't make it all about Malcolm. He then says, listen, anyone that shows signs of nobleness, like stars, shall shine. So what he's saying here is, look, my kingdom, me, King Duncan, is a meritocracy. What that means is you're going to be rewarded on your merit. If you do good things, you're going to be rewarded, and I'm going to shine on you like stars. That's a pretty cool simile, right? And if you're bad, like Thane of Cawdor was, right, you're going to be killed, or you're going to be punished, or you're going to, you're going to be put aside. So Duncan is creating a meritocracy that is full of justice and order. This is what we want from a king, queen, leader, ruler, whatever, right? Good is rewarded, bad is punished. Cool. Okay. So then, Duncan calls Macbeth publicly for the first time, my worthy Cawdor. Okay. This shows Duncan's gratitude towards Macbeth, but again is also deeply ironic, because what Duncan thinks he's done is got rid of an unworthy Cawdor, had him executed for treason, and replaced him with a worthy Cawdor that he can shine on like a star, right? In reality, and it ties into appearance versus reality again, in reality, that's not the case. In reality, what we have here, sadly, is another unworthy Cawdor. And we see that especially in what Macbeth says. Now, notice that this is an aside. So this is effectively what we would call a soliloquy, a small soliloquy. So no one else can hear this. This is within Macbeth's mind. Yeah, he's not necessarily showing it on the face. So see how it comes back to that same thing? There's no art to find the mind's construction in the face. We don't know what Macbeth's face looks like, but we know what's going on in his mind because of this aside. The Prince of Cumberland. That is a step on which I must fall down or else overleap because it lies in my way. It lies in my way. Stars, hide your fires. Let not light see my black and deep desires. So we see, whilst Duncan is talking about shining on all of them like stars because he wants to bring out their good, Macbeth is corrupting that image and saying, well, the stars inside me, the brightness inside me isn't light, it's fire. So he takes a good image of light and he corrupts it and burns it as fire. So the goodness Duncan wants to reward, the good ambition, he's saying, no, my ambition is toxic. I've got toxic fire burning ambition, right? Do not let people see those black and deep desires within me. What are those black and deep desires? He wants Duncan dead, he wants Malcolm dead, yeah? And he realizes that he will have to commit a lot of treason because Duncan has to die and Malcolm has to die. Otherwise, he has to fall down and accept that he's not going to become the king. This all, in terms of context, links deeply to the Gunpowder Plot because Guy Fawkes and his co-conspirators plotted for months, maybe even years, to try to kill James I, right? And the whole time, obviously, they were trying to hide their black and deep desires to get rid of the king. So it links very strongly to that Gunpowder Plot. And then there's just a little bit more irony at the end. Duncan says that Macbeth is a peerless kinsman. It's ironic because Duncan's basically saying he is the best subject that I have. He's the best thing that I have. He's the best person that I know. And obviously that's ironic because he's literally in his brain thinking about killing Duncan right now. Cool. Okay. So I think, honestly, that's pretty much everything I wanted to say on this one. I like to try and give a little bonus to those of you that have made it to the end of the video. I mentioned how the king is someone who is very human, like a father figure to them, like family. I don't know why I didn't highlight this. As he's talking to them, Duncan literally breaks down and he's so grateful and happy for these thanes and his sons that he says, my plenteous joys wanton in fullness. I'm so full of joy, hide themselves in drops of sorrow. So another thing you rarely would ever see of Queen Elizabeth prior, King Charles now, any other monarch you want to mention, you're very, very, very unlikely to see them crying. So what we see here, what Shakespeare has created for us here, is a very humanized and relatable king, okay? And that's obviously the imagery of him crying. Very relatable, very likable, very human, very accessible. This is not the normal presentation of a king or queen, really ever, even to this day. They're seen as this like distant authoritarian figure above us. But no, Duncan's right there on the ground with them, hugging them, being grateful to them, telling them he wants to reward them, crying with happiness. Cool. So if you enjoyed that video, please do like, share, subscribe. And is there anything else I need to say? No, I think that's it. I'll see you in the next one.